when you play the game, you hit a game-winning shot, you miss a shot, the reaction's there. You can see how people are responding to it, right? You can feel it.
The energy
is there. What I do now, you don't. Like I don't see how people are affected by your basketball, or creating the Punies and you put it out there. Like I wish I could see a car ride of a family the first time their daughter hears Lily's Lemonade and what she's doing, if she's singing along to it. That's not there, right? So that's the challenge. That's the one thing that I miss, is being able to feed off of the energy.
Welcome everyone to the School of Greatness podcast. We have the incredible, legendary Kobe Bryant. My man, it's good to meet you.
Pleasure, man.
Congrats on everything. You're an icon, a legend, and the thing I love the most about you is that you really care about other human beings.
Yeah.
Your heart is so big, even though you've been known for this focused mentality that is just almost psycho in some ways, but you care deeply about human beings, and I think that's why so many people love you as well. So I want to acknowledge you for your kindness and your generosity towards humanity. My first question for you is, I'm curious about who was your greatest teacher growing up? Because you had an interesting childhood, being in Italy for a while, coming back to Philadelphia, I think it was.
Yeah.
But who was the greatest teacher for you in those early days?
It's funny, man. I had a lot of them. My parents were great. Growing up, they instilled in me the importance of imagination, of curiosity. And understanding that, okay, if you want to accomplish something, I'm not just going to sit here and say, yes, you can do whatever you want. Yes, you can, but you have to also put in the work to get there, right? So they taught me that at a really early age, man. And when you grow up as a kid thinking that the world is your oyster and all things are possible if you put in the work to do it, you grow up having that fundamental belief.
Yeah. Who was more influential for you, your father or mother?
Both were influential at different points.
Yeah.
Right. My mom was there on a daily basis. My father was really influential at a really critical time where I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old, in a very prominent summer league in Philadelphia called the Sunny Hill League, where my father played, my uncle played, and they were like all-time greats and that sort of stuff. And Wilt Chamberlain played in the league, Earl of Pro Monroe played in the league. And here I come playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer.
Really?
Not one.
How old were you?
11, 10, 11.
And you're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds? And you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How did you not score?
Because I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
At 10, 11 years old, you were that terrible?
Awful. I mean, and I had these big knee pads on because I was growing really fast, and I had socks all the way up here, and I had like the high top
skinny,
fades, like skinny as hell. And I scored not a free throw, nothing, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points. And I remember crying about it and being upset about it. And my father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm going to love you no matter what.
Wow.
Now that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there, I was like, okay, that gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. I have the security there. But to hell with that. I'm scoring 60. Let's go.
Right.
And from there, I just went to work. I stayed with it. And I kept practicing.
Is that when you think the mentality of hard work started to come in for you at that age, when you failed so miserably, I guess, that summer?
I think that's when the idea of understanding a long-term view became important. Because I wasn't going to catch these kids in a week. I wasn't going to catch them in a year, right? So that's when I sat down and said, okay, this is going to take some thought. All right, what do I want to work on first? All right, shooting. All right, let's knock this out. Let's focus on this. Half a year, 6 months, do nothing but shoot. All right, after that, all right, creating your own shot. And then you focus. So I started creating a menu of things. When I came back the next summer, I was a little bit better, right?
And a menu being like, I've got my jump shot from 15, I've got my
I got my jump shot from 15, I got my three-point shot, like just open shots, not miss open shots, right? And be able to shoot it with speed, because those kids are so much more athletic.
Yeah.
And then the next summer I came back, I was a little better. And the summer came back, next summer I was a little better. I scored.
Yeah,
it wasn't much, but I scored.
And this is 12, 13.
12, 13. And then 14 came around, back half of 13, 14 years old, and then I was just killing everyone. And it happened in 2 years. And I wasn't expecting it to happen in 2 years, but it did, because what I had to do was work on the basics and the fundamentals. Well, they relied on their athleticism and their natural ability. And because I stick to the fundamentals, it just caught up to them. And then my body, my knees stopped hurting. I grew into my frame. And
then your athleticism, once you have the fundamentals,
exactly.
the hard work, the mindset, and you tack on the athleticism, it's game over.
Then it was game over.
Wow. So from 13, you're good, average still?
I was good. I was good. And then about the end of my right when I was turning 14, I became the best player in the state.
At 14?
At 14.
So from 12 to 14, you went from scoring 0 to being the best in the state of all ages.
Yep. But it's simple. Like if you do the math on this, right? Like if you're thinking about how often kids are playing, right? And I tell this to my daughter and my daughter's team as well that I coach. It's a simple thing of math. If you want to be a great player, if you play every single day, 2-3 hours, every single day, over the course of a year, how much better are you getting? Most kids will play maybe, an hour and a half, 2 days a week.
Right.
Do the math on that. It's not going to get it done. It's not going to get it done, right? So if you're obsessively training 2-3 hours every single day over a year, over 2 years,
you're accelerating.
You make quantum leaps, man.
Just doing a summer camp for 2 weeks, you see a difference. I remember playing basketball growing up.
You see it.
You get a lot better, and you come back more confident playing on the playground with guys who used to beat you.
Yeah, and I tell the parents on my team, I said it's when I say your kids are going to become great basketball players, and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, it's not. There's no.
It's math.
It's it.
Show up every single day.
Show up every single day, do the work.
But you have this Mamba mentality. Your book's coming out soon, and how did you develop this? There's a beautiful story that I love from Jay Williams. I don't know if you remember Jay Williams, where he did an interview a while back, and he talked about how when he played you, I think the first time, or one of the first times he played against you, he was like, I'm going to show up so early to the court to warm up and practice like before anyone.
Yeah.
And he shows up at the court. I don't know if it was in LA or where it was, and you were the only one there. Already shooting free throws, already doing your fundamentals. And he goes, I'm going to stay here until Kobe leaves. And then he was like, gosh, an hour and a half, 2 hours later,
I got to go.
I'm tired. And Kobe's still shooting free throws, scoring, like just going over the fundamentals. And he goes, and then we played that game and you were lights out. And he came up to you afterwards and said, like, dude, why were you in there for so long? Or how'd you do it? And he said, this is what he said, I knew you were watching and I wanted to show you that I was willing to outwork you.
Right.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this.
I remember it.
You remember, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was so powerful that you have this mindset, but how did you develop that? I don't know if that's what you call the Mamba mindset, but how did you develop that? And when did it start?
It started in middle school and high school because a lot of the kids that I was playing against were inner city kids. Yeah. And so they're looking at me as if, okay, this kid's soft, right? He's from the suburbs of Philadelphia. His father played in the NBA, played professionally.
He's got it easy.
Born on second, all this other stuff, right? And so they felt like they could try to be physical or try to intimidate me and do all this other stuff, which they couldn't, right? But now I'm saying, okay, well, you're trying to attack me. How am I going to attack you? How can I mentally figure out ways to break you down? How can I show you that, no, I have the edge, right? And so that's when it first started for me, is figuring out how to get the upper hand on an opponent that way.
And what would you do to mentally break people down then?
Well, I mean, we used to have an All-American camp that I used to go to, and at the time when I first showed, I was a sophomore, and one of the things I would do is while everybody would be at the cafeteria, eating and doing all sort of stuff, I just go back to the gym.
They'd be resting, eating,
and they'd see me leave, right? But now you're in a tough position because you're like, okay, I want to be like I'm following the kid to go work out, but I know he's working, he's up early, and he's doing all this other stuff. And so that was my way of showing them, I may be from the suburbs, but you're not going to outwork me. Wow. And I'm mentally going to be
Did someone teach you that? Was that just a thing that you decided, like, I'm going to get in people's minds?
I think it's just figuring out ways to be better and to win the game. And it started as a defense mechanism because they were the ones talking trash to me, and kid from Italy, blah blah blah, and all this other stuff. And it was like, okay, I can't let them. I got to defend myself here, right? And then it became okay. I'm pretty witty. I can say some pretty witty things.
And in Italian.
And in Italian. Yeah.
It's interesting. I never was physically gifted to an extreme level. I was always really good, but I was never like the fastest or biggest or strongest. But I remember my edge was I'm not going to go party and I'm not going to drink alcohol.
Right.
So I've never been drunk still because I was
Right.
like, I need every edge when guys were out partying late at night who were better than me and drinking and showing up hungover. I was like, I'm going to be more focused and have
Right.
clearer vision. And but I wasn't waking up at 4 a.m. like you. So
Well, that's interesting because like when I played, one of the things that I had to learn is how to get the best out of my teammates.
yeah,
And most people think it's a simple thing, pass them the ball. But that's not how you make guys better. You have to really affect their behavior.
how do you do that?
So, I would tell guys, we got back-to-backs. I don't care if we're in Miami. I don't care if we're in a great city of Chicago. We can't go out. We got to get rest. Right?
Back-to-back games.
Back-to-back games,
Yeah.
right? Monday, Tuesday. You play Monday and play again Tuesday. But guys aren't going to listen, right?
Right.
So a few times say, all right, we'll all go out. We'll go out together.
Really?
I'll drink with you, right? But the next morning, I'm banging on your door at 5 a.m. Let's go.
They're not getting
Where are we
up.
going? I hung out with you. Now you come hang out with me.
Wow.
This is what we do. All right, let's go. And we're at the gym. We're working out, right? We hit the bus. We go to practice. We play that night.
And they're dead.
And they're dead. And they're like, oh, lesson learned.
Really?
Lesson
So
learned.
take them out once.
Listen, if you're going to do that. But don't let that compromise what we're here to do.
Right.
This is why we're here. This is why you're here in the first place,
Yeah.
right?
And if we're going to win a championship, we have to have that championship mentality
That's
and
it.
work ethic.
That's it. So you got to show them, no, Kobe can do that and still has the energy to get up and do this. So either I got to meet that same energy or I got to keep my butt in my
Go to
room.
bed early, yeah. Wow. What are some other things you did to rise the level of your teammates? What are some other ways that you can? And what do you think people can do in general with a business team or any sports team?
I think you have to listen and you have to pay attention to what your colleagues or teammates are saying and what are certain things that drive them, certain things that motivate them, that trigger them. One of my favorite ones, Powell hates it every time I tell this story. He hates it. But we lost to the Celtics in '08. And it was a physical series. I mean, they beat the crap out of us.
Yeah.
And so we go into the Olympic year, that year. We
Yeah.
wound up playing Spain for the gold medal match. And we beat them.
Uh-huh.
And so now we come back to start training camp. And Powell shows up the first day of training camp. I had my gold medal hanging in his locker.
Oh, no.
And he, I mean, like the one thing that he truly, truly loves is his country.
Of course.
That is like everything to him. So it just drove him crazy.
Oh
I
my
said, Powell,
gosh.
listen. He said, you're an asshole. Blah, blah, blah. I said, listen, Powell, you lost to the Celtics. You lost to us in a gold medal match. Let's not make this 3 in a row this year.
Wow.
Okay?
That is
Let's win this
brilliant.
thing. And that was it for him.
And he probably stepped up at a whole nother level.
Well, Powell was a phenomenon to begin with. And then
Yeah.
for him was just stepping up to a level of physicality
Yeah.
that we needed him to get to, which he did. And we went on to win back-to-back championships.
My man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how important is understanding human psychology and human behavior to work with a team as opposed to just relying on your gifts and talents?
It's probably the most important thing. When you're in this culture in our society, you can do some phenomenal things individually, but they'll never reach their full potential unless you do them collectively. And you have to figure out how to do that. And Phil Jackson was great at that. And Phil, he wouldn't just coach the team or coach the game, but he'd read everything about every single player.
Really?
He'd learn about your history, how you grew up, how you were raised, where were you raised. He'll read every interview, and he'll learn about you, and gives him a better understanding of what's motivating you, or what your insecurities are, right? And then it just helps him communicate with you better, or even push a button here if he needs to.
When did you learn that it was important to understand who your teammates are, what their likes or dislikes are? Was that in high school for you or more?
No, it was, I learned it from Phil. There was a stretch in '03 where Shaq was out with an injury. And Phil called me up to his office and said, okay, we need you to really turn on the afterburners and start scoring the ball if we have to win. So I did, and I wound up scoring, I think it was 9 straight games for 40-plus points.
9 straight.
9 straight games. And then Shaq comes back, second to last game of that. And then Phil calls me up to his office and says, Kobe, okay, I need you to dial it back. I'm like, why? Like, we're winning. I don't understand. It's because our goal is to win a championship. And we can get through the Western Conference with you playing this way. But in the East, we can dominate them inside with Shaq in the post. But if you continue to do this, we'll lose Shaq. We'll lose him.
His motivation, his excitement.
What triggers him, right? So I need you to pull back so we can pull Shaq forward for June.
Wow.
And I just looked at him like, this is one smart dude.
Wow, that's really smart.
Yeah, it's one smart dude, man. So I pulled it back.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the greatest challenge you've had since leaving the game?
The greatest challenge. I think it's,
you won an Oscar, you're launching podcasts and shows, and you got a book coming out.
Yeah, but it's different though. Like, we were just talking about it here in the office the other day. When you play the game, you hit a game-winning shot, you miss a shot, the reaction's there. You can see how people are responding to it, right? You can feel it.
The energy is
there. What I do now, you don't. Like, I don't see how people are affected by their basketball, or creating the Punies and you put it out there. Like, I wish I could see a car ride of a family the first time their daughter hears Lily's Lemonade and what she's doing, if she's singing along to it. That's not there, right? So that's the challenge. That's the one thing that I miss, is being able to feed off of the energy. Yeah.
The instant feedback that you get from missing or scoring a shot, winning or losing a game. It's like either way you're getting a result, right?
Yes, that's the one thing. And when I went to, because I spent a lot of time with mentors as well, up at Pixar and Disney Studios. They've been absolutely wonderful Disney animation. And I talked to them about Frozen and Moana and how our kids love them. And they're always like, oh, that's awesome. And they want to hear it because they don't ever get a chance to truly see it. Like, they're not
sitting in the movie theater like.
No. And they don't have time to go to Disneyland and walk around the park and see how many families are enjoying the content that they've created because they're busy making the next
creating.
One. Yes. So that's the one thing.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for most athletes after they retire?
I think it's the fear of starting anew, and that was certainly present for me as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
because
identity, you mean, or?
Well, it's starting from scratch, right? Because when you play for 20 years, I played for 20 years, you reach a certain level, you're like, okay, wait a minute, I have to start again at the base of a mountain and try to climb the top of this mountain. First of all, what mountain am I climbing? I don't even know, like, what the hell am I going to be doing? And it's very scary. It's very scary.
Even for you?
Oh, absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. And the thing that helped me actually was hurting my Achilles, because that forced me to sit there and say, okay, the day could be today that your career is over.
At any time when you were playing, you mean, yeah.
Now what do? You have these ideas about doing something with your life after basketball, but what if today is the day that's it? Now what do you do? So I had all this time sitting there with my Achilles injury and contemplating and thinking, and I said, I better get to work.
Wow.
And that was that.
What was the vision for you afterwards then? Was it to do what you're doing now, or did you have other ideas, or what's the vision for
I struggled with it at first, because the first question I asked, which is the wrong question, is what's the biggest industry I can get into?
Was it more money thinking?
Yes,
or
money thinking, saying, okay, athletes are saying you can't make more revenue when you retire, this is your source of your income is here. Saying, okay, that's a challenge, what can I do? And I remember going for.
Didn't you launch a fund or something?
I did. And so I went for a ride, and I said, okay, stop thinking of it that way. You're thinking of it the wrong way. Why did you start playing basketball? Because I loved it. All right, what do you love to do? Oh, well, I love to tell stories. All right, let's do that. And then that's where it started for me. And then on top of that, it became things like, you start learning more about the financial industry and about players going broke once they retire, and saying, okay, how can I minimize the chances of that happening? What are things that I can do to invest my money smartly? Also help control some of that outcome to a certain extent.
Right.
And that's when I called Mike Rapoli. Mike Rapoli was an entrepreneur who built Vitamin Water, and Pirates Booty, and some other companies, and started learning from him. And then from that came the opportunity to invest in body armor.
Yeah.
And which we're
good.
drinking now.
It's delicious.
But all that came from the injury, and really having to self-assess and face that really dark room of what comes next.
Storytelling is something you're really passionate about. What's a story over your life that's been a constant theme that you go back to? Is there something you heard as a kid that really resonates with you, or a book, or a movie that just feels like this is me?
Yeah, that's funny. Movies, there are plenty, but there's a quote from one of my English teachers at Lower Merion named Mr. Fisk. He had a great quote that said, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And that's something I always live by. You know, I'm not going to rest. I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time.
Rest at the end.
Rest at the end.
What's the question that eats you alive the most that you haven't answered yet?
The question that eats me alive that I haven't answered yet.
Or that you're still looking for the answer?
I'm still looking for the answer. How to tell a good story. I don't think anybody has that answer. You know, like when I sat down to write Dear Basketball, I was like, okay, what do I want to say? And you know, you have certain acts and how you can structure certain things, right? The ebbs and flows of story, certain formulas that have been there since the beginning of time. But it's such an exact science.
So challenging, yeah.
Right? And so that one question is really interesting.
Why do you want to tell a great story?
I think stories is what moves the world. Whether it's an inspirational story or it's an informational one. Nothing in this world moves without story. You know, be it from the political world, sports world, nothing that we have moves without story. And so I think that is the root of everything. And if we're going to try to make the world a better place, story is the right place to start.
I agree.
But most people don't understand. Like my last year, people would come up to me and say, okay, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be a storyteller.
Really?
And they go,
they're like, what are you talking about?
all right, man. So what's
what are you really going to do? Yeah.
They're like, what's going to happen when you retire is you're going to go through like a week of depression. Yeah. Then the second week is going to be like denial and all that.
Right.
I'm like, dude, seriously, I'm good. So after a while, I just got sick of it, and I just said, I don't know. I'll go play golf or something.
Right, you just tell them a lie.
I'm not going to do anything.
I'll invest in real estate. Yeah,
whatever. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit around.
What does losing feel like to you?
It's exciting.
Why is it exciting?
Because it means you have different ways to get better. There's certain things that you can figure out that you can take advantage of, right? Certain weaknesses that were exposed. That you need to shore up, right? So it was exciting. I mean, it sucks to lose,
right?
But at the same time, there are answers there if you just look at them.
Because you get the information from losing more than from winning, probably.
Yeah. I mean, the answers are there when you win too. You just have to look at them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a constant process. It's exciting when you win. It's exciting when you lose because the process should be exactly the same, whether you win or you lose. As you go back and you look and you find things that you could have done better. You find things that you've done well that worked. You figure out how did they work, why did they work, how can you make them work again?
Yeah.
And but the hardest thing is to face that stuff. That's a really, really tough challenge.
You mean face it? You mean look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, this is how I showed up, or this is what happened? And
I'll give you an example. So Katie Lou Samuelson is one of the best college basketball players in the country. She plays at UConn. She's going to be a senior.
Right now.
Yeah. And she's from Huntington Beach, out here by us, and so she comes down and she works with some of my girls on the team, and she helps coach. And they just had a really tough season last year where they lost to Notre Dame in the final.
That's right.
Really tough.
First loss in years, right?
Yeah. And so I asked her, I said, have you watched the Notre Dame game? She was like, no. I said, well, why not? I said, I don't want to watch that. I said, I know you don't, but you're going to play Notre Dame this year, yeah? Yeah. What's the chances you see him again in the final? Well, you probably see me again. I said, well, you can't show up and play them without knowing why you lost that one, right? So, you know, the mistakes that you've made in that game, you have to do the hard stuff and watch that game and study that game to not make those mistakes over and over again just because you weren't brave enough to face it. So she came down to the office. I brought her down to the office and we sat down, we watched that game together.
Wow.
Right? And you gotta deal with it.
Face it.
Got to deal with it. Face it, learn from it.
Wow, it must have been cringing for her to just be like, oh, replaying like we could have won, all these things.
That's exactly it, isn't it?
If I just did that one thing,
That's exactly
if I didn't get that foul, if I was scored that layup.
That's exactly right. You look at it and say, oh, there's the mismatch. Oh. there's the gap, you know, and all those little things, and it sucks. But you don't want to have that feeling again, do you? Right? So you got to really study it, face it, and not to say you'll win the next time you face it, but at least you'll give yourself a better chance.
Yeah. And what was your routine and ritual like after every game? Would you watch almost every game over, or certain games?
All of them.
Every game you watch?
Every game.
The whole game back?
The whole game.
No way.
So it started with me when I was when Phil Jackson's his first year here with the Lakers. One of his assistant coaches, his name was Tex Winter, and I call him Yoda. I mean, he was like 82 when he got here.
Wow.
And he was responsible for teaching me the triangle offense.
How old were you then?
I was 21.
So 3 years, 4 years in the league?
Yeah, so about my fourth year in the league.
Okay.
And so I go up to his room, and this is when there were no iPads or anything like that, right? So when you're on the road,
VHS tapes,
you have to call down to the front desk, and they have to bring up the TV with the whole, you know, the rolly thing and the VHS and the cassette tape. You pop it in, and I thought we were going to watch what we call touches. So watch all your touches when you have the ball, all the decisions you make, good ones and bad. No, we're watching the start of the game to the end of the game, and not like the TV feed. We're watching the in-arena feed, the layup line, the timeouts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, rewinding, stopping, fast forward, rewinding, slow motion, every little thing, every game of that season with the 82-year-old Yoda.
Oh my gosh.
Who is as brutally honest as you can get.
What did that teach you that season?
Oh, it taught me to look at detail. Right, look at things at their smallest. Right, look at body language. You know, look at the energy between players, our team and the other team.
Wow.
Right, look at the tactics. You know, look at the overall strategy, and to look at how tactically things are manifesting themselves. And because I watched so much film, then it gave me the ability to see game in real time as if I was watching film.
Wow.
Where I can see bop, 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 because a lot of times the game starts moving really fast. But if you train yourself to watch hours and hours of film, the game's not moving that fast anymore. You can really recognize who's doing what and why. Then you can position guys in the right places in real time.
Seeing it before it happens.
Yes.
Yeah. We, in football, we'd watch it once a week, game film, but not, after every game. It was only one game a week. You got like three a week sometimes.
Yeah, you gotta go.
And I know Tom Brady's obsessive over game film as well. I mean, watching his show that came out, Tom vs. Time, was all about him just in there studying. Even months after the game, he's studying to prepare, right? It's just like he's obsessive.
Nonstop.
And that's one of the keys, you think? It's like if you're not watching film, whether it be as a speaker on stage or a performer and a musician, if you're not watching yourself back.
You gotta learn, man. I mean, Beyonce's the same thing.
Really?
After a performance, she's immediately on her laptop rewatching the performance.
No way.
Yes, seeing how to do things better. What could we have done differently? Right? I mean, it's an obsessiveness that comes along with it. You want things to be as perfect as they can be, understanding that nothing is ever perfect. But the challenge is try to get them as perfect as they can be. And what can you do? It's in your control. So control what you can. I can watch film all day long. It's going to help me
get better.
Yes.
Now, did you have your teammates also follow on this obsessiveness that you had as well? Or did you just encourage them, or what was the...
No, you can't push somebody to do that, right? But what you can do is alter behavior and also change the vernacular of how they speak about the game. So on team buses, team planes, in a locker room, after practice, I would look at the film. I'd pull Powell, Lamar, D-Fish, pull them aside and say, let's look at this. Right? We probably should have done this, that, and the other.
So you'll show them the game film a little bit here and there.
Yeah, and then you speak to them in executional terms. It's never, come on, guys, we can do better. Come on, guys, we can do better. That's rah-rah stuff, right? A leader must give very tactical things that we can do, adjustments. Okay, the defense is doing this, that, and the other. That means we should probably do this, that, and the other. Yeah. By midway through the season, through that behavior, you start seeing them communicating the same way back to you, right? And it's like, okay, Cole, they're doing this, that, and the other to you. Maybe we should do this and that. You're like, okay, awesome, great, let's do it.
What about season 16, 17, 18? Are you still watching every game film as obsessively as the first 10 years?
Not now, no. Well, when I was playing.
When you were playing.
So when I was playing, what I would do is study the film, but study our younger players and see what areas do they need to develop in, and how can I help them develop. I mean, that was the big challenge, is you move from, you know, being the single dominant player to understanding, okay, I have to help these other guys.
How do I lift everyone else up?
It's tough.
I mean, you were so dominant your whole career, one of the greatest of all time. Was there a weakness that you had? Or did you, because obviously you're always trying to master your weaknesses so they became strengths, but did you, at the end or towards the end, did you ever feel like, gosh, I still haven't like mastered this one part of the game?
The challenge for me was always compassion and empathy.
Because you're like, guys, let's go. Get results. Shut up. Don't complain, right?
I don't want to hear your whining. I don't want to hear it. Don't
no excuses.
Don't tell me how rough the water is. Just bring the boat in. You know, I don't want to hear it. You know, and it's
That's funny.
It's understanding, like, okay, these guys have lives
Right.
outside of here.
They have other things happening.
Have other things happening to them that may be affecting the way that they're practicing or the way that they're performing. Right? And it was hard for me to understand that, because nothing bothered me. You know, anything personally, that never fazed me when I
You
played.
compartmentalized it.
Very well. So I couldn't understand how my teammates couldn't do that either, until so I had to really work on that aspect of it.
That's hard.
Yeah, it
So
is.
did you feel like you never really had the compassion you wish you would have had? Like until the last maybe couple of years?
Yeah, so I think about 2009 things started changing for me.
Okay.
I started really making a conscious effort to better understand. And that doesn't mean, you have compassion and empathy so you go soft on them. It's more like you put yourself to the side and you put yourself in their shoes and understand what they're feeling. And then you have to make certain decisions of, okay, what buttons do I need to push for this player to get them to the next level? So it's not sit around and it's all happy-go-lucky type of thing. Your leader, your job is to get the best out of them, even if they may not like it at that time.
Yeah. Wow. What are you most proud of from your 20 seasons?
Honestly, may sound a little shallow, but I got to say beating the Celtics in Game 7. That's what I'm most proud of, because it was the hardest. You were playing with Rajon Rondo, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett,
All-stars.
Ray Allen, and it was myself, Powell, and the players that other teams didn't want. And how do we figure out as a group what to do? And the reason why I love that series so much is that we went down 3-2 against Boston. And now you got 2 games coming home. I remember sitting in the locker room, and they beat the crap out of us too that game. So we're sitting in the locker room, and it's really, really quiet. I'm sitting there looking around, and we just lost the Celtics in 08, so this is like revenge, right? And they're kicking our butt again, right? So I sit around, and I just started laughing. And then I remember Derek Fisher looked at me and Lamar looked at me and goes, what is funny? I said, dude, they beat the crap out of us. They just beat the crap out. I said, I'm missing the part where that's funny. I said, man, listen, if we start this season and they say, all you have to do is win 2 games at home and you're NBA champ, would you take that?
Yeah.
And like, right.
Yeah, right.
That's all we got to do.
Yeah.
Go
Down
home,
3-2.
win 2. We're NBA champions. All we got to do is win 2 games in a row. That's it. We'll take care of the first game, and I promise you, they're not winning Game 7 on our home floor. It's not happening. And so we all just laughed about it. And then we went out and we figured it out. But that Game 7 we're down 15 points in the fourth quarter, right? And that's when you have to collectively look at each other and say, the spirit of your team must be good. Because at that moment is when teams fracture. If the energy amongst each other isn't there, that trust isn't there, you're done. And we were able to collectively dig deep together and say, all right, we're going to figure this thing out.
Wow.
And I wasn't playing well. I wasn't shooting the ball well at all. And so my teammates
picked you up and they delivered.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Gosh, man. I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've got only probably like 5 to 7 minutes left. I saw on Instagram that you're up at like 4 a.m. lifting by yourself in the dark. And again, you've had one of the most incredible careers, arguably of all time, made all the money in the world, got a freaking Oscar now. You've got all these other things happening, and yet you're still waking up, or at least you're in the gym at 4 a.m. working out, and you just turned 40, right? Which, congratulations, by the way. I hope I look as good as you at 40. Why still wake up that early and train at this level in your life right now?
Well, I mean, there's several factors for that. Like when I first retired, I let myself go a little bit.
Really? You got a little?
Oh yeah.
Got a little chubby life?
Oh, it was awesome. I was like,
you enjoyed everything.
Oh man, I'm eating what? In and out,
man.
Bring it to me. Let's go. Steak. Oh, let's go. Right? Milkshakes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And then the challenge was, okay, can I get back in shape?
Oh.
And it's really hard because there's no end goal.
There's no game. There's no season. There's no.
Right. So how do you motivate yourself to do it?
How do you?
And so for me, it was like, okay, I have to aim for something. So I said, I want to aim for size. I want to aim for bulk. Right. So that's a tangible thing. I'm going to go for that. Right. But then also it's, my children, because like, your kids can't see how hard you work. You go to the office, I come in the studio, they don't really see the effort, right? So how can we teach our children what it means to work hard? Well, you do it through training, right? So when I get up in the morning, my daughter goes with me.
4 a.m.?
4 a.m. My 15-year-old goes with me. She goes with me before school, and it becomes a daddy-daughter thing.
That's cool.
She just got her permit, right? So she drives in the morning. It becomes a cool thing, right? But through that process, she understands the value of hard work and things taking time. And the same thing with my 12-year-old, right? She practices every day, right? And so it's through those behaviors is where I find the motivation to do it. Yeah.
And what brings you the most joy right now?
Being with my family.
Really?
That is the most fun. It's just, it's hanging out with them all summer, being able to like do things that I ordinarily couldn't do.
Yeah.
Because of training, because of season and stuff like that. So being around them and watching Bianca grow up, because there are a lot of things that I miss with Natalia and Gianna because I was playing. And so being there every day with them is so much fun, man. So it brings me the most joy.
That's amazing. And what does love feel like for you?
What does love feel like? Happiness is such a, I don't really think I would describe love as happiness. I think I describe it as a beautiful journey. It has its ups and downs, right? Whether it's in marriage or whether it's in the career, things are never perfect.
Yeah.
But through love, you continue to persevere and you move through them. You move through them. And then through that storm, beautiful sun emerges.
Yeah.
Right? And inevitably another storm comes. And guess what? You ride that one out too.
Yeah.
So I think love is a certain determination and persistence to go through the good times and the bad times with the someone or something that you truly love.
You've got a new podcast out right now called The Punies,
Yeah.
which I started listening to. I've listened to the first 2 episodes. It's incredible. They're like 13 to 15 minute episodic storytelling, cartoons, I guess,
Yes.
for kids. And the thing I love about it the most is it's funny, it's entertaining, there's original music, there's all these different characters. You're teaching history like in a fun way, which I like the last one where it's like, we talk about history so we don't repeat it in our own lives. And then you teach lessons about overcoming failure for kids and insecurities and challenges we're facing. And I think it's beautiful. Can you talk about the Punies and the podcast and what it's all about?
Yeah, so the Punies came to me from, we have our family tradition where we watch The Sandlot every 4th of July.
God, it's the greatest movie,
it's the greatest.
man. In the
it's
summer,
greatest. Squints
oh my
and yaya and all.
gosh.
It's the
S'mores,
best thing.
baby.
Dude, come
Give
on.
me s'mores.
Right? So, that's our family ritual.
Oh my
Every
gosh.
4th of July.
Sandlot,
right? And so after watching The Sandlot movie, I was like, we need a new sports movie like this, right? So I started kind of concepting ideas and stuff, but nothing I truly loved. And then over Thanksgiving, our other ritual is to watch Charlie Brown, right? In the pumpkin patch, right? So we watched that, and then I go, whoa, wait a minute. Let's just put those together. Right? And I already had written some stories, individual stories for Puny Pete and BB. And so
two of the characters
in the Punies. And I said, well, let's combine those. Let's. And then from that's when the Punies started coming to fruition, and I started thinking about the characters and You know, why does this show need to exist, and what are some of the deeper messages that can be there that consciously you may not observe, but you can sense and feel. And that's when I started constructing the show.
And are you part of the whole process? Are you helping write the script? Are you helping?
So we have a great young producer here who actually started here 3 years ago while he was still at SC, and has since grown into a position.
Greatest film school,
Greatest film school. And so he and I worked together hand in hand on outlining every single episode. So we outlined each episode, the story beats, and then we found a great writer named John Holler. He's a great writer. And so we gave him the outline, and he just made it 1,000 times better.
Wow.
And then I directed each episode, and
you oversee it all. You look over the scripts,
I directed it. So you know, the other challenge was finding great actors.
Voice acting is a different skill.
Yes, it's a challenging art form. I mean, you really have to be able to communicate a lot just through your voice.
Essence and energy with your voice,
And so the trick was finding actors that have not lost that childlike quality, right? They can still imagine themselves being children, being at the park and playing, right? And once we found them, they really brought the characters to life. And now here we are with the Punies, man.
It's amazing. I want you guys to go download it right now, subscribe. It's the Punies on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and anywhere podcasts are at. I'm telling you guys, there's a lot of parents who listen to this show. Download this, listen to it in your car, and do me a favor, take a video of your kids in the car and send it to me. Or tag me on Instagram, tag Kobe on Instagram.
Yes,
Kobe
please.
Bryant.
That would be amazing.
Because that's what's going to give you great feedback.
Oh gosh, that would be amazing.
Seeing how kids react. So put your phone, again, don't film and drive. Do it when have someone else filming it, right? But make sure, or put it on a GoPro and just press record.
Yes.
It's about 15 minutes long. Take your kids to school. It is
take
like
them to the park too. Like on Saturday, like we made them on Saturdays. Like every Saturday it's a new episode, because Saturday is normally the day us parents drive our kids to different sporting events.
To the pool, to the games, the park.
Yes, that's why every episode has to be between 12 to 15, 16 minutes, right? Because that's normally the drive.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it may be longer, and in that case you can play multiple episodes. But that's something you can listen to on your way to an event.
It's like mini Frozen and Moana episodes, right? It's like little with original music and all that stuff. It's really cool. Go download it. Again, take a video and tag Kobe on Instagram. Are you on Instagram a lot yourself?
I am on Instagram,
Tag him.
Especially Lily's Lemonade. Listen to Lily's Lemonade, and I would love to see kids out there trying to do the Lily's Lemonade song.
Love it. Hopefully we'll get a bunch of video clips for you. And your book is out in October. It's called Mamba Mindset. Do you want to talk briefly about that?
Well, the mentality book is really about process and craft. I've broken the book up into 2 sections. And process is really about the process of preparing, through injury, recovery, studying of the game. And then the craft is the actual performance and the tactics. And so a lot of things that I learned through the game were through photos. You can look at a photo and see like a player making a move, and look at the angle of his feet, look how he's using his hands on defense, and I can really break down things to the smallest detail through that. And that's what you'll see in this book. I mean, it's really a basketball Bible.
Yeah. Mamba Mentality, but it's also your mindset Bible, right?
Yeah. Well, you'll see how I break things down, like how I'm looking at things to the smallest of detail.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to understand how to have that kind of mentality, is to ask questions and then find answers. And then that lead to more questions, and you find more answers. And that's what the book is.
I love it. Make sure you guys get the book. You can pre-order it right now. Download the Punies. Follow you on social media. The final question is, what's your definition of greatness?
I think the definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you. I think that's what greatness is or should be. It's not something that lives and dies with one person. It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever. Yeah. And I think that's our challenge as people, is to figure out how our story can impact others and motivate them in a way to create their own greatness.
Well, I want to acknowledge you again, man, for the inspiration. You're just a symbol of truth and inspiration to so many people.
Oh, thanks, man.
And I just appreciate you as a human. So, Kobe,
appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you, brother.